And before the end of November, there was enough hard evidence on the table to prove that the 2020 American election was brazenly fraudulent and criminally fraudulent. And now each day of December reveals more evidence of fraud and more evidence of Trump's vote count domination. If you want to see just how fast this mountain of evidence is growing, go here online to hereistheevidence.com. But even as this evidence just piles up, the media escalates denial of these facts and the affidavits and witnesses and reports, which you can see here, maintaining this facade of a President-elect Biden with his presidential office and his growing list of executive appointees. The media is desperately pressing America to accept this pretense and demand a Biden inauguration. Media pressure is now increasing as fast as vote fraud evidence is increasing. Now, why is this happening? And what will be the outcome? Serious Trump voters, of course, continue to stand with their marginalized president, but he is most closely surrounded by appointees. Now, not all his appointees, of course, but many appointees who refuse to fight for justice and honesty. Trump's own first attorneys lied to him. His DOJ and FBI have stood down in their duties to prosecute those who have violated federal law. His attorney general acknowledges fraud, but suggests that it is not enough to change today's media narrative, which is this: Biden won, Trump must step aside. Progressive judges are doing everything possible to keep the president out of court and away from justice, and even congressmen from his own party are cowering under the threat of media intimidation and media accusation. They're afraid of it, terrified of it. And it may be that the script will simply play out as written. Republicans will surrender to the false media narrative, which grows more strident by the hour. And this is it. Biden won. Trump must step aside. Now, notice that the narrative does not say Trump must concede, because the writers of the narrative on the left know he would never concede. And so the script for the next chapter in Mr. Trump's life is being written by those who are carefully choreographing his way off the world stage and out of the White House. Now, look at the story. The next chapter in the president's life will be just fine for him. That's the way that the story is going this month. And this is actually a distraction from the bigger question and the more important question: what is the next chapter in American history? And so if we focus instead on the life of one person or an ex-president, we can be tricked to imagine that Donald Trump is still in the game, full of enthusiasm and working with his angry supporters to stage a grand and glorious comeback in 2024. You've heard this, right? This manufactured idea can soothe and pacify those angry supporters, but it gives them false hope. The narrative pictures a dynamic businessman transitioning into a new life calling with new campaigns and projects like Trump for President 2024, Trump Television, and his new Trump Party. And even Republicans are beginning to cheer him into this dead-end detour. And that's what it is. Trump supporters are being told to take heart, that their hero can launch an unstoppable movement for 2024, and that patriots will make a comeback with more liberty and justice than ever before, that Donald Trump will be stronger than ever. And this is nothing but a creative fantasy to appease, to mislead, and then silence the deplorables. Now let's take a look at the truth. If Americans give way to a dishonest, election-stealing Democratic machine, this machine will possess a form of power they will develop and they will never give up. Once Biden is inaugurated chief executive, his so-called administration will use every power of the executive branch, and there are a lot of powers available to it, and they will use it aggressively to silence all opposition from a rival party or a rival ideology or a rival personality. Any real momentum of Mr. Trump or his supporters will not be allowed to exist. It will be criminalized into silence. Now, how will they do this? Revolutionary Democrats have been rehearsing this and practicing, talking about this, having meetings about this for years, about how to permanently keep all the power that they steal in the 2020 election. Every executive power available to a president would be deployed, including forms of martial law. Now, in history, we can see that in all countries where a militant police state has been locked into place, like in Nazi Germany, Mao's China, Stalin's Russia, Gottwald's Czechoslovakia in 1948, when this has happened, military control becomes politicized and then weaponized into a single-party dictatorship, one party. It's a dictatorship. All meaningful dissent comes to an end at that point. Now, Hillary Clinton has been heard to say, let's lift a page from the German book, and meaning one-party rule through deceit and intrigue and terror and government propaganda. I mean, this has been a topic of planning, strategy, tactics, and conversation for a very long time in the Democratic Party. Biden's communist handlers in the party know that there will be no Trump television, okay? There will be no campaigning for a Trump presidency. There will be no election in 2024 unless all candidates belong to that single-party dictatorship. There will be no changing of the guard in 2024. And this is what we need to understand about the future, the next chapter in American political history. Every expression of state power will be leveraged by the Democrats to maintain a frenzy of hate and violence against every conservative in the United States. Terror and fear would be the dominant power of the Democratic machine until the population is subdued into full compliance. Now, and this happened in these other countries that we've looked at, and that's how the dictators maintained the control over the population. Now, most Americans, including Donald Trump, naively believe that politics is fair play and reasonable debate, and it once was, but no longer. Today's political left is not your grandfather's Democratic Party. It is murderously revolutionary, and it means to end politics as America once knew it. There will be no compassion or tolerance or inclusivity in that new party. There will be no free exchange of ideas. I mean, just look at the last year and what's happened through that party, how they have behaved themselves. America can look for, in the future, if there is a Biden presidency, I think there will be a party secretariat for truth and reconciliation and tribunals which make lies and retribution official government policy. Trump supporters, especially judges and lawyers and sheriffs and ministers, will be the first to be put on trial. Militant Democrats with Marxist training are drawing up lists, and they call them Haman lists, Haman, to eliminate those who are threats to their future. Democrat operatives will control the citizenry through the escalating intimidation of violence and destruction and hate and oppression and anger and official intolerance. And now, Daily Beast editor-at-large Rick Wilson, I mean, you can read this on websites, in their publications. He's added his own call for humiliation of Republicans and incarceration, and even ritualistic suicides for Trump supporters. Here's what he said, and this is his quote: "Only exposure, pain, humiliation, and inshallah, incarceration will lead to a moment of reckoning for the GOP." I mean, what does that mean? Inshallah means Allah willing. Incarceration will lead to a moment of reckoning for the GOP. So what is the solution? How can you stand up and lead America in a different direction? Ranting about how sick you are of censorship or cheating will do nothing. But here is something you can do today. Remind people you know that they can go to prison if they know about vote fraud in their counties and keep quiet about it. The law which will convict them is this one, 52 U.S. Code, Section 20511. Tell them how they can go to hereistheevidence.com and then go on record themselves that they have reported crimes about which they are familiar. And go there yourself and see how fast the evidence is mounting. Please send this link to your U.S. congressman and tell him there is no way your state's electors can certify the vote from your state with so much evidence of criminal tampering with ballots that has happened. And then share this video with others so that they can take action this week with you. Thank you.